Today we're going to learn about opera. Not just for old people anymore. Brief history. Before there was television or the internet, people had to find entertainment in other ways. Attending public performances was how people socialized, entertained themselves, and learned about the world around them. During the Renaissance period in Italy, a group of performers called the Florentine Camerata got bored with what they were able to do in their singing ensemble and wrote an opera based on an ancient Greek tragedy. An opera is kind of like a play, but instead of speaking, all of the actors sing. The singers are accompanied by an orchestra, and there is usually a chorus in the background as well. The main characters of the cast are soloists who don't use microphones because they have been specially trained to project their voices without them. This style is called bel canto. The first part of the opera is the overture. It acts as an introduction to the show. The overture contains melodic themes that will be heard throughout the rest of the opera. It only features the orchestra, and it might introduce the audience to the setting by having the stage be visible. But there is no singing. The lines that would ordinarily be spoken in a play are sung by the cast in what is called the recitative. The notes of the recitative tend to be andante, which means a slower tempo, with a fairly stagnant melody. They're not very compelling to listen to. Lyrics of the recitative convey the facts, what is happening and who is who. Then, when a character experiences an emotion, they sing what's called an aria. This is when a singer gets to sing in a way that conveys an emotion with their acting and bel canto vocal skills. The dynamics, tempi, and other musical aspects of arias tend to be much more varied than the recitatives. You could say they're much more dramatic. The plots of most operas revolve around a boy and a girl who fall in love and want to get married. There's usually a villain or obstacle in their way, who the boy and girl need the help of their fellow cast members to be together. Generally, the girl is a soprano or a high female voice. The boy is a tenor or a high male voice. If the villain is a female, they are almost always played by a contralto, the lowest female voice, or a coloratura, a very high or the highest female voice. If the villain is a male, they are played by a bass, the lowest male voice. The chorus has a full range of all of the voices: sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. An operetta is a little opera. The difference between an opera and an operetta is that an opera is all sung, but an operetta has spoken dialogue instead of a recitative. The arias, however, are still sung, and the singing technique is still bel canto, so no microphones are used. The main difference between an operetta and a musical is that a musical doesn't necessarily have songs that are performed in bel canto style. Musicals also tend to feature the main characters dancing, whereas in opera and operetta, any dancing was done by a special cast who are usually ballerinas. Let's review. What were the 3 reasons that people used to go to operas? For entertainment. No, really, this was considered fun back then. To learn about the world around them and to socialize. What singing group invented opera? That's right, the Florentine Camerata. What kind of play was the original opera based on? An ancient Greek tragedy. What is the difference between a play and an opera? The words are sung instead of spoken. Why don't opera singers use microphones? They use a singing technique called bel canto, where they project their voices naturally and don't need them. What is the first part of the opera called? Dun 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 dun! The overture. Who performs the overture? The orchestra, and there are no singers. When the singers sing about facts, what is this part of the song called? The recitative, pronounced recitative. When the singers sing about their emotions, what is this part of the song called? The aria. What is the difference between the recitative sounds and the way the arias sound? Recitative has an andante tempo and a stagnant melody. The aria sounds much more dramatic with more variable tempo, markings dynamics, and more variation in the melody. What are most opera plots about? A soprano and a tenor want to get married and a villain won't let them. What three-voice part typically plays a villain? Contralto, coloratura, or a bass? Is a soprano male or female, and do they sing high or low? A high female voice. Is an alto male or female, and do they sing high or low? A low female voice. Which is higher, a tenor or a bass? A tenor. What voice types will sing in the chorus? Sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. All of them. What is the difference between an opera and an operetta? An opera is all sung, whereas an operetta has some spoken dialogue. Do they still use bel canto technique in operetta? Yes. What is the difference between an operetta and a musical? An operetta still has mostly singing, whereas a musical is mostly talking with only a few songs. Do actors in a musical dance as well as sing and act? Yes. Do singers in an operetta or opera dance? No. So who does the dancing in opera and operetta? A separate cast of ballerinas. The end.